by Phantom Vault.
History of the Shadows of the West Wing. It was an unusually quiet night in the West Wing, the dim corridors casting long, heavy shadows. Vice President Kamala Harris sat alone in her office, reviewing briefing documents when her phone buzzed, an unlisted number. She hesitated, a slight chill prickling her spine, but curiosity took hold. She answered. "Madam Vice President," a voice rasped on the other end, low and almost serpentine. "I have something you'll want to see, alone." Before she could respond, the line went dead. The cryptic message was enough to unsettle her. No one who knew her direct number would play a game like this. She considered calling security, but ultimately stood, her curiosity and instinct for self-reliance prevailing. Minutes later, Kamala slipped quietly from her office, moving quickly through the West Wing. A flash drive was waiting for her in an empty, dimly lit corridor, placed carefully atop a stack of innocuous-looking paperwork on a filing cabinet. She pocketed the drive and returned to her office, slipping it into her computer. The screen went black. Then text appeared, with an urgent message. "The committee is watching. They know more than you realize." A video began to play. Footage showed secret meetings in remote places, high-ranking officials from the Defense Department, and foreign diplomats, some of whom she recognized from briefings. Each scene hinted at something deep and troubling. Plans, documents exchanged, handshakes in the dark. Harris's pulse quickened as familiar faces appeared. One was the Secretary of State, another the National Security Advisor, both engaged in what looked like discussions with operatives from foreign powers. Her mind reeled. These were the faces she saw in meetings every day, people entrusted with the country's most critical secrets. And yet here they were, exchanging classified information with foreign powers, as though it were a game of diplomacy beyond her grasp. Shaken but determined, Harris knew she needed to tread carefully. She understood that whoever was behind this video had a clear message. Someone wanted her to discover the depths of corruption or betrayal surrounding her office. Her intuition told her this wasn't merely an attempt to expose a hidden faction. This was personal. The next day, Harris found herself face to face with the Secretary of State, who offered her a polite smile in a meeting. It took everything in her power to keep her expression steady as she observed him closely, dissecting every glance and tone. As she listened to routine discussions of policy, the words blurred. Something wasn't right. Later that evening, her chief aide, Nina, handed her an innocuous-looking report. It was marked with a small symbol, a subtle mark at the top corner, a symbol Kamala had seen in the video the night before. Nina didn't explain, but her eyes told a different story. Harris nodded in acknowledgement. She read the document alone that night, understanding that someone in her close circle had managed to thread her into a hidden network, one that was entangled in espionage, a clandestine scheme operating behind the scenes. It was no longer just the committee's knowledge she was concerned with. Her life and career were woven into it now, inseparably. A few nights later, a knock came at her door. 3 taps, slow and deliberate. She opened it cautiously, her heart pounding. A figure stepped into the shadows, face obscured. He introduced himself only as Carter. "Vice President Harris," he said in a low tone. "You've seen enough by now to understand what you're dealing with. The committee is real, and they're watching, even as we speak. But they don't know one thing. Their days of operating without consequence are numbered, and you could be the one to bring them down." Kamala's heart raced. This was bigger than a video. bigger than her. Carter laid out a plan, but it was up to her to decide. She could join the fight, dismantling this network piece by piece from within, or she could walk away, leaving things as they were and hoping for the best. The next morning, as Harris walked through the West Wing, passing the very faces from the video, she felt a newfound clarity and power. They would never suspect her, and she would ensure it stayed that way. This was her moment, and from now on, every step she took was in the shadows, her movements precise, calculating, and in the end, unstoppable. This story is about unintentional paranoia in high places. And it's not for nothing that Kamala was wary. She knew that the committee is watching. They know more than you realize.